Greetings. Welcome to another Vinyl Thoughts. I realized that I've gone, I don't know how long it's been, talking about albums without once talking about an album from one of my favorite bands of all time. That band is Nirvana. So today we're going to talk about this album, Bleach, the debut album from Nirvana that came out in 1989 on Sub Pop Records. So I, like many of you, did not hear this album when it came out. I was busy listening to Anthrax and Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, so no idea. And then, of course, 1991, Nevermind came out. It was all over the place. I loved it. And so, of course, the first thing that you're going to want to do when you hear a new album that you love is, who is this band? Where did they come from? Do they have any other albums? So I ended up getting Bleach on compact disc. And at first, I didn't really like it. I liked the sound on Nevermind, and this seemed a lot more like some sort of stoner metal rock kind of shit. I had no idea where they were coming from, and it was a little bit jarring at first. But over the years, I've come to love this album, and I love it in the context of their other two albums, because as much as I love the sound on Bleach, if they had continued to make albums that just sounded like Bleach, I don't know if I would be necessarily that interested in them today. Same thing goes with Nevermind. If they had made a second album that sounded like Nevermind, I don't think it would have stuck with me that much. But they made In Utero. So they literally made these three different sounding albums that all sound like Nirvana, just sort of different sides of the band. And that's why I think their really small catalog has stuck with me as such an important thing for such a long time. So let's take a look at this. This is not a 1989 pressing. This is a 2000 pressing on Sub Pop Records. And obviously, I'm not made of money, folks. So this one is a good second place for me because you still got the original track listing on there. And on top of that, it's not remastered. This is the original mix of the album because the remastered version is shit. Anyway, so let's take a look at the record here. So, it's the label that if you have a remastered one, I'm sorry, but also that's the label that they still have on that too. So for those of you who may not be familiar with this album, it is sort of heavy stoner metal-ish, but really it actually is more grunge than Nevermind or even In Utero. Because when the grunge scene was first happening, before it was termed grunge, it was all this sort of hodgepodge of hardcore and metal and, maybe a little bit of guitar rock, like the 70s guitar rock, all kind of put together and played through, broken fucking speakers with weird ass distortion and weird howled vocals. And a lot of bands were doing different versions of this. So every band had their own unique spin on this grunge thing. And Bleach is the only album that Nirvana did that I think sounds like grunge. And it's a heavy album. It's weird at times. There really are only two songs that even give you a glimpse into where Nirvana would go with Nevermind. I mean, aside from those, if you didn't know, you might think that it's two totally different bands. And I think it's fucking great. It stands on its own. It is now a fucking classic album. And like I said before, I love this album because of what they did on Nevermind. And I love In Utero because of what they did on Nevermind and what they did on Bleach. And so all of these things are pretty much why Nirvana has stuck with me over the years and has remained one of my favorite bands and one of the most important bands to me when it comes to me as a songwriter and a musician, because I kind of learned how to play and write by sort of taking apart what Kurt Cobain had done at the time, because that's not a bad place to start. Anyway, I know that for some people talking about Nirvana is kind of controversial on a channel where I mostly talk about 80s metal, because like people like to say without really thinking about it, grunge killed off 80s metal. Yeah. Okay, no, it didn't. 80s metal killed itself off. It got way oversaturated, and there was so much bullshit out there that something was going to take it down. It just happened to be grunge. But I don't really give a shit, because at the time I was into all of this music. I was still into the thrash bands, I was into the grunge bands, I was into the death metal bands. So it all was kind of a big pile of awesome fucking music that I was getting to wade through and learn from and become the music dork that you see before you today. Anyway, that's all I got to say about this album. Please put your comments down below. Like and subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe. All of those things. Thank you for watching. I will see you all again before you know it.